it's Kim. Today I'm going to make a chickpea soup, an Italian style chickpea soup with the typical ingredients like onions, celery, and carrots and garlic. I'm also going to be using some kale at the end and a few Italian herbs like fennel and rosemary and some Italian parsley. So it's kind of one of those, what do I have in my fridge and pantry recipes? And this is what I came up with, and I've made this kind of soup many times before. It could be a pasta fagioli if you added some pasta at the end, which I may or may not do. But it's a vegan, gluten-free recipe that you can, of course, add meat to if you wanted to. You can add your cheese if you do cheese at the end. So it's pretty versatile. You could have it, if you didn't do the pasta, you could have it with a side of, some sort of like bread on the side, gluten-free in my case. So it's a good warming recipe for a cold winter's day, and we'll get right to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is add the onions and celery, carrot, and the garlic to the pot with some olive oil. And I'm going to cook for a few minutes on medium. I'm also going to add a pinch of salt in here to help stuff start to soften. So it's just the typical way to start many soups. And we'll check back in a minute. I just added in about 2 teaspoons of fennel, dried fennel seed, and I love fennel. It's so good for the digestion. And really, most herbs and spices that we add to our food, they make our food taste great, but the secret is they really do help our body to digest and absorb our food. Anyway, so I added 2 teaspoons of dried fennel seed and about the same amount of dried parsley and just a smidge, just a pinch of dried rosemary. Rosemary tends to go pretty far in my opinion. So we've been cooking this for about 5 minutes, and now I'm going to add the water, which then I'll add a bouillon cube to. Some people like to add broth, and if you have that, that's great. I usually do water and then add a bouillon cube afterward. So I actually added 6 cups of water. I like my soup kind of brothy. Some of it's going to evaporate when it comes to a boil and then simmers. I'm just going to bring this to a boil and then lower the heat and let it simmer till the carrots are soft. And this is the bouillon. Again, this is the bouillon that I like to use, but you can use whatever bouillon you have. So the soup's been cooking for about 15 minutes, and the carrots are now tender, and I added 2 cups, that would be like 1 15-ounce can, about that, of chickpeas. And if you didn't have chickpeas, you could add navy beans, cannellini beans, great northern beans, pretty much, any beans. I suppose you could even use lentils if you wanted. And the only other thing I'm going to do is I have some pasta sauce I made the other day, so I'm going to add about 1/4 cup of pasta sauce. And if you didn't have, it's just a marinara sauce, but if you didn't have that made up, then you could just use some canned tomatoes of whatever kind that you had. I don't really want to make this super tomatoey. I just want it to have a little bit of that flavor to it. So you could add pureed, tomato puree or crushed tomatoes, or even like a tablespoon of tomato paste or something like that if you had that. The marinara sauce obviously has some garlic and oregano and stuff like that in it. And then the last thing I'm going to add is the kale. I think I have at least 2 cups of kale that we cut up last night, and it was just too much to cook for dinner, so we saved some for today, and it's just perfect to put in the soup. So I'm just going to wait for this to soften a couple minutes, and then it'll be ready to eat. Actually, I just tasted the soup, and I added another 1/4 cup of broth. Pasta sauce, because I wanted to taste it just a little, but I didn't want it to overpower it. So 1/2 cup is just enough. Well, the soup is finished and it tastes so yummy. It's so comforting and just right for, it's still really hot. It's just right for this wintry day we have. I hope you will try this chickpea and kale soup and let me know what you think.